César Chavez was one of the most influential voices for the United States Hispanic population. In the 1960s, the Chicano movement had spread throughout many Latino communities throughout the United States. This movement fought for the rights of undocumented immigrants and agricultural workers who were not under Union protections due to the Wagner Act of 1936. Chavez became one of the great nonviolent leaders of this movement. He brought more national attention to this issue via marches that drew publicization and boycotts of oppressive agricultural industries. He placed pressure on prominent politicians to enact policies that would protect agricultural and migrant workers. Chavez also reached out beyond the members of quote-unquote his group to build better community relations and gain outside support for his movement, giving even more strength to what they were doing. Chavez not only gained better rights for agricultural workers, but he left in his wake a sense of empowerment amongst a community that had been marginalized and oppressed. He also offers an important example of gaining support from all different people and utilizing many different methods to gain the movement's goal. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy still heavily echoes in modern-day history. His work during the Civil Rights Movement focused heavily on nonviolence and peaceful protests. It began with the Montgomery bus boycotts, which protested against the racist policy that African Americans had to go to the back of the bus. This movement snowballed into more and more acts of nonviolent protest encouraged by King. His speeches about equality and civil rights stemmed from a moral argument that appealed to Christians around the country. Like Chavez, Martin Luther King Jr. recognized the importance of drawing support from all different groups in order to give greater strength to the movement he was fighting for. His work contributed heavily to the passing of the Civil Rights Act, and his work continued until he was tragically assassinated in 1968. Whitney Young was a social worker and policy advocate. Young went head-to-head with the racism of the National Urban League, eventually transforming the organization into a fighter for social justice. When Young had a leadership position, he was a catalyst for introducing new programs that directly combated racial inequality in urban areas and provided solutions for social and economic disparities. His work shows that oftentimes advocacy has to come from not only national policy change, but from organizational change that is reflective of the values and goals of a movement. Young changed the organization to a catalyst of racial equality, which had ripple effects throughout the country. It shows that when social workers are working for greater national change, there are many different ways to do it, and we cannot underestimate the change from efforts at community levels.